Hello and welcome to Camp Xbox, where we talk about all things Xbox from the original to the Series X. And today we are talking about 007 James Bond Nightfire, a first-person shooter that was released November 18th, 2002 in North America. It was released for the GameCube, PS2, Xbox, later on PC, Game Boy, and Mac. And all footage today was captured off of the original Xbox. Published by EA and developed by Eurocom. This is the second appearance of James Bond on the original Xbox, with the first being Agent Under Fire, which was covered on this channel before. Nightfire is heavily based on the same building blocks that James Bond games before it had set up, including Agent Under Fire. Nightfire takes what made the other games great, builds upon them, and creates something stronger. In Nightfire, you of course play as English Secret Agent James Bond, a character who's most famous for his films and books, but by 2002 was synonymous in the video game world as well, with the hugely successful GoldenEye on the Nintendo 64 just 5 years prior. So EA had to deliver something along that caliber, but perfect for the next gen. Nightfire, unlike GoldenEye, is not based upon a movie. It is an original story and is actually sort of a sequel to Agent Under Fire with some returning characters. In Nightfire, James Bond must hunt after a millionaire named Drake, who has gained control of a US military space station and plans on destroying the Earth's population with the satellite. It's a classic Bond tale with a great supervillain, which every great Bond story needs. Raphael Drake is a solid villain because he doesn't look like your stereotypical villain. He's a cool and suave philanthropist, and his voice actor brings a debonair feeling to him. It's funny, he's actually exactly like the villain in Moonraker, Hugo Drax, having the exact same plans, but maybe a little more suave than Drax is. The plot itself is actually almost identical to Moonraker, but feels a lot more globe-trotting, and of course, with a different Bond at the helm. Unlike Agent Under Fire, Nightfire uses a digital rendering of Pierce Brosnan, who was the Bond at that time. Unfortunately, he did not come into the game to voice though, so you might have some getting used to this new voice on Pierce Brosnan's head. Still though, I think Maxwell Caulfield brings a Bond suaveness that still works for the character. I do like his interactions and of course his sweet one-liners. I really love the sheer variety of locations in this game as well, going from places like giant evil skyscrapers to jungles and even underwater. There's a lot of variety in the globe-trotting of this game. In the single-player story, there are two different types of levels. It offers first-person shooter levels and driving levels. In the first-person shooter levels, Bond has a large amount of guns and gadgets to work with, as well as multiple playstyles that you can use to take on these missions. I really enjoyed the stealth missions. They weren't extremely hard, but I love the use you get out of the silenced weapons. There's a level that takes place entirely in a skyscraper, and you sneak through the dark hallways, avoiding cameras and taking out enemies along the way. It all plays fantastically. Just make sure that when you play through this on the Xbox to switch from the GoldenEye controls to the modernized control scheme. It feels excellent, and I still think it plays great to this day. Everything works well, and switching weapons and gadgets on the fly work perfectly. Even in the levels that involve just shooting down foes and not much stealth, the flow of combat works well, and the frantic pacing of the fights is exhilarating. It offers a nice variety that stops the action from becoming too stale, along with keeping the standard with GoldenEye, where there are multiple objectives to tackle with your game time. So it isn't just a trip where you're just trying to get from the start to the finish, but you have to be involved and take on special objectives along the way. The gameplay keeps up the variety with some extremely strong driving levels. In Nightfire, you get to drive the Aston Martin V12 Vanquish and a few other vehicles, and it doesn't feel shoehorned in. The levels are crafted extremely well, even if they are a bit linear, usually tasking you from getting to point A to point B, all the while using your missiles to blow up any vehicles that get in your path. All of them are fast and frantic, with the controls feeling on point, just like a normal racing game. I love the implementation of the smokescreen gadgets and to be able to slow down vehicles coming from behind you. There's even a late level where you can control an underwater car, like in The Spy Who Loved Me. At first I was a little scared of this level. I thought maybe it would play painfully, but it controls wonderfully, and it was one of the highlight levels. It was so unique and fun. It all comes together to create a Bond game with an insane amount of variety, hopping you over to many different locations and gameplay styles. And that's why Nightfire is a blast from start to finish, and I highly recommend playing this campaign from start to finish. Nightfire did not offer Xbox Live support, unfortunately, but a Bond game would be remiss if it did not have any type of multiplayer to play at all. And I appreciate that this game has AI bots for you to fight against. So even if you don't have a group of friends, you can get some multiplayer style action. And there are a surprising amount of gameplay modes to choose from, and tons of options. Bots have multiple settings like aggressiveness, and game modes are all strong with, of course, the classics like Team Deathmatch and Capture the Flag. I think what I loved the most about this multiplayer is its many references to other Bond media. When you play through the single player, you unlock characters to play in the multiplayer, and there is a surprising amount of characters from the movies such as Goldfinger, Scaramanga, and of course you gotta have Oddjob. The maps even take place at places like Fort Knox and Atlantis, notable places throughout the 007 movies. I think Nightfire, just through multiplayer, shows that they had a lot of respect for the Bond franchise going in. The multiplayer itself is a ton of fun too. If you need to take time out and just play with some bots, it's really worth trying out. And the game looks solid as well. It looks in line with most EA releases at the time. I know it's silly, but I do think this era of EA had a very particular look, and it looks a lot like The Sims. Not that that's a problem though. Character models all look solid and cutscenes are great. I think graphically I love the environments and levels more than anything. Each level has a distinct look and feeling that I think does a great job of making things stand out. I love the look of the snowy levels, where things are just covered up with snow, but some buildings just peek through. It's full of nice details and brings everything together. And the music is excellent as well. Of course, the Bond theme is here playing over and over, but it's not quite as bad as Agent Under Fire, which got a little annoying after a bit. It has all of the Bond classic music though, and even its own Bond theme song. It's not a great song though, but I think it's a nice touch to add to this whole experience of feeling like a cinematic Bond movie. Sound effects are great as well, especially all of the gun noises, and the voice work is solid. It's an all-around fantastic package from start to finish. Nightfire really doesn't have a lot of things to complain about from me. The globe-trotting level design, the fun story, and all-around great gameplay from the first-person shooter levels and the driving levels, it creates a package that feels like playing an amazing Bond film. To me, this one capitalized on the things that made Agent Under Fire good and only improved upon the game's qualities. It's an excellent game for a Bond fan or anybody that enjoys just a good first-person shooter. It's one I highly recommend checking out. And moving on to our original Xbox ranked list, Nightfire enters in at the number 11 slot. I did put it over Jedi Academy 2 because I really appreciate the variety offered by Nightfire, but in a very tough decision, I put it right under Splinter Cell. I just enjoyed the plot of Splinter Cell, and it's a story that has stuck with me ever since I played it, and that's what made the cutoff for that one. But I think that wraps it up for today. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Also, let me know what you want me to play next, and I'll see you here next time at Camp Xbox.